Well, I mean, the most recent thing is I got a new tattoo. Um, Not much to talk about that, I guess. It's just, I mean, I've talked about it in the past. Still healing, so it's flaky. I've talked about it in the past. Sure, we can put up a picture because I took some. But obviously, Horizon is like my favorite game franchise. It has been since, uh, 2022 for sure. So the game, I guess, just means a lot to me. Like, overall, I think it's probably the best example of like really good storytelling that I have personally encountered in any like game that I've played before. Like the storytelling is just so like in the world building it's just so like beautifully crafted. That's on like the bigger scale. But like there's a lot of little things throughout the game too that just make me love it even more, and it all comes down to why the game just means so much to me, I guess. And I wanted like a tattoo for so long um for that game, and I finally, cuz I was looking for so long uh for a composition that I liked, because I was looking online for like tattoos and art and stuff like that, trying to find something that piqued my interest, but nothing did until I found the official art for Horizon Forbidden West. And the whole thing is just like kind of a landscape. So, um, but I only wanted one aspect of that picture, and it was the part. I can probably put that up as well in editing, but I just wanted the part in the background where Aloy was there with her head like against her spear. I don't know why, but that composition, I'd never seen it in anyone else's tattoo online when I looked up for ideas, but it just, I knew that was the one that I wanted. So I ended up bringing that to my tattoo artist, and he ended up doing some work on it because the original tattoo, where her hair is flowing out behind her, to make that into a tattoo, he was like, I would have recommended you do like a back piece because that would be a very big detailed piece. But he did manage to, um, I guess, well, he drew his own. He drew a mock up for me. And he did like such a good job with it. Like, I know he's good at art, he's a tattoo artist, but I just, when I saw it, I wasn't expecting it. Like, I don't know, I was just so pleasantly surprised about how just beautiful it looked. Because I don't know what I was expecting, but he did like a full body, not full body, but down to like about the waist, which wasn't a part of the reference picture that I gave him. So he must have done his research using other pictures of her as well. And I think he even like designed his own outfit for her as well instead of using any of the ones from the game. And like it looks just so much like an outfit she would wear. And I don't know, just overall, I just really like the design that he did. So I'm like really happy with it. It's not done yet, anyways. But anyway, line work and a little bit of shading's done for now. And I've been getting a few compliments here and there on it. I say this is probably gonna be my favorite tattoo when it's done. I think it already is.
I've been thinking about switching back to Spotify.
Why?
Like Apple Music is nice.
You had such a case for switching to Apple Music. What changed your mind?
Like there are things that I like about it. Like the lyrics are like they just look much better to watch. I like watching them, so I have like my iPad set up at work when music's playing, and I just have the lyrics showing. I just like looking at it. It's much prettier than Spotify. But
And at the time, it sounded better because it had lossless, and it had for I guess a while at that point.
apparently, it's only
And
for
Spotify,
wired headphones.
What?
Apparently, you can't do it over Bluetooth.
Although, but I feel like I've noticed the difference though
I mean,
in the
I don't know if
quality.
Spotify had Dolby Atmos. It's like that makes it sound like I think more fuller. Like I don't think Spotify had that at least when we switched over.
Definitely didn't have lossless because I think after we switched to Apple Music,
We got it in like December, I think.
September.
No, it got in like December.
Oh, I thought you were talking about when we switched. No,
No,
yeah. Literally not that long after we switched, they introduced lossless when, like, for so long, they just didn't have it because, well, you know, Apple Music and other forms of, like, music streaming, um, they have other forms of revenue, but Spotify, like, is just the music, so, like, it apparently it's been losing money for years because it's not, like, a super sustainable business model. I don't remember all the intricacies of it, but they're not paying artists very well because they can't afford to, for one.
yeah, I know.
But that's why it took them so long to get lossless because it cost them more to have those files than like the shittier ones, basically.
A large part of my issue with Apple Music is the one, it just has like bad recommendations, and two, the search algorithm is terrible. I can give you an example here, maybe.
My biggest issue, though, switching to Apple Music over Spotify is that Spotify is a much easier place for smaller artists to get started, I'm pretty sure. Even though, like, they pay shittier, still, I think it's a more accessible platform than, like, Apple Music or something because I think there were a few songs when I switched to Apple Music that they just didn't have because they were by smaller artists that were only on Spotify. I don't think it was that many, luckily, but still, it felt kind of like a small price to pay for. Well, I think the plan is cheaper because, well, Apple can afford to have a cheaper plan for their music streaming platform than Spotify, and Spotify keeps raising their prices. And, you know, better quality audio.
Like, it's such a small issue that I have, but like when I'm like searching things up so often, and just how I've gotten used to it with Spotify, it actively like takes in what you listen to and judges what you would be searching for. Does it good, so like it just figures out what you could possibly be searching for. So if you have like a generic song name and you put that into Spotify, it'll say, "Oh, you listen to a lot of hip hop. You're probably looking for this song that you've never listened to before, and it'll be the exact one that I'm looking for that I heard on like I don't know TikTok or something." But if
And
I do the same thing on Apple Music, it won't do that.
oh, I thought you were saying Apple Music did do
No,
that. And I was like, so wait, why is there a problem here?
no, like it just their search algorithm is terrible. But like,
I do agree that is a very minor issue
like,
because you can just scroll a little bit and find what you're looking for. It's not that hard.
but I can't. Like, look at this. If I look up literally, for example, like again, I know it's such a non-issue, but if I look up the two letters CA and I'm looking for like Carly Rae Jepsen, right? On Apple Music, it just won't show up in any of these. I have to hit that, and then I have to like scroll all the way down, and it might not even show it.
Or
But
you
on
could
Spotify,
just type her name.
no, because it's annoying. I've gotten used to how Spotify does it, so where if I just type in CA right at the top, because they just know. It happens all the time on fucking Apple Music. Like I don't type in the whole thing because I'm used to Spotify just showing what I'm looking for within two letters.
Okay, but I'm also not a lazy little bitch. So I'll just type in the few extra letters if, you know, if I'm trying to look for something specific. That's like the only issue you've had.
I don't really care for like AI, but I did kind of like using the DJ every now and then.
Yeah, I will say that sometimes um that was another feature actually now that you mention it I do miss. Um Not that specifically. I didn't use DJ very much, but you could what was it called? It's like you shuffle your playlist, but it adds in some new songs.
Smart Shuffle.
Smart shuffle, yes. And it'll add in some new songs so that way you might be able to find some new songs you haven't heard before and you might actually like. So I did enjoy that because um it's not that often that I, go out of my way to listen to new music, and it's like sometimes I don't really know what exactly I want to listen to. At least this was more of an issue before I met you and you introduced me to music a little more, but I'm still not like going out of my way to listen to music as much. But I found the smart shuffle feature if I wanted to like find new songs because, after a while, the old songs that you've been listening to, probably for like years and years, they kind of become boring at a certain point, and you want something new, something that's going to like stimulate your brain in the way that, well, those songs used to when they were newer to you. But now you listen to them enough times that it's like that feeling you get listening to them is just it's gone, you know?
Yeah.
And you're trying to find another song that's going to do that. I found that feature good for that reason. So I do kind of miss that a little bit, but I've done without it. Anything else before we get into Superman? Did we want to do a rating like we did with Scary Movie 6?
Yeah. So because Supergirl releases next week, we are reviewing Superman.
We have watched this movie before. We watched it in theaters, but we did watch it again.
Yeah.
Now, you've watched it a good few times, actually. I think you went to the theaters by yourself, you loser, to go see it. But we did see it once at the theater together. You've seen it more than I have. But we did watch it last night for a bit of a refresher, and so I could actually, you know, take notes on stuff and gauge how I felt, especially if we were going to do a rating.
Yeah. Last night was my seventh time watching it.
Jesus, you're keeping count?
Well, I watched it 5 times in theaters, and then I watched it.
How much money did you spend on that?
I don't know.
More than you should have.
Probably the same thing with Supergirl if it's good.
I kind of figured.
And the same thing with Spider-Man next month.
Oh my god.
Yeah, because I watched it 5 times, and then only once outside of theaters after that, and the last night, so 7 times.
Okay. Good to know. I've only watched it twice. Since we're establishing that.
Oh, what is your rating?
9 out of 10.
Okay, why?
Or do you want to give yours and then we can go into explaining why?
Sure. 2 out of 10.
Yeah, no, I doubt it.
I give it a 9 as well.
Okay. So we're pretty like similar on this one. We were a little more divided on Scary Movie, but yeah.
What do you have written down?
Well, a few points. Did you want to go into exactly why you took off that last point?
Why did you do it?
I didn't have any major issues with the actual quality of the movie itself. I couldn't pick out anything in particular that I very much thought meh, kind of wasn't a great part or whatever. Kind of like, how I had a lot to say about like Scary Movie 6. A lot to pick out and be critical of. But I didn't for this one. The major reason for me though is, and I know Superman is part of the wider DC universe, and I'm sure like the other movies which I haven't seen do this as well. Um but I just felt like this movie almost felt like it was meant to be more of a standalone to like Superman's lore, which I'm not super familiar with anyways. But there's a lot of basic things that some people do understand because Superman is such a popular thing that there's just some things you learn over the years about it, whether you want to or not,
Mm.
because you hear it. And this movie, I guess, I didn't have any major questions about that stuff and anything, I guess, lore wise to Superman himself, if this was like, a standalone movie that didn't incorporate elements of the wider DC universe. It would have felt fine to me as someone who is not familiar with the lore because I have not seen the other like Superman movies, shows, whatever.
They're not connected at all.
No, but
No other DC movie is connected to this one.
there was some lore behind, like, well, Green Lantern, Mister Terrific, and Hawk Hawk Girl was her name.
Yeah, okay, so I think the confusion is that this is a movie that is already set in a time where this world has just existed. This isn't like an introduction movie to the world. This is the first movie in this world after it's already been taking place. These characters just already exist.
Yes.
There are no movies that come before this that explain them. This is the first movie.
Yes, that's what I mean. Like, you're going into this, like, you have to have that knowledge of the DC universe going into this movie, is what I'm saying, to understand what is happening. And I know of Lex Luthor, and I'm sure I knew he was a bad guy, but I don't know the lore there either. So I think that was just more of a personal thing. Um, See, no one, I think, going into this, who does know that lore is going to have an issue with that, obviously, because they're going to know.
Would you have preferred it be an origin story?
I'm sure they've already done that, though.
Well, that's the biggest issue. That's why, like, most movies now that revolve around particularly three characters, being Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman, they don't do the origin story anymore.
Yeah. To be fair, for whatever reason, I decided to watch like all of the Spider-Man movies, but none of the other Marvel movies. So the Spider-Man movies themselves, but to be fair, it was more than one. They did a very good job at, like, explaining the lore because they were standalone movies for Spider-Man. But then you got to like the other Marvel movies that Spider-Man was just in, but it was about like all of them anyways. You were supposed to go into that movie knowing the knowledge, like the lore of the wider Marvel universe.
Like what? I'm confused.
Well, who all these other characters were.
Yeah, but you didn't need to know that for Spider-Man's movies.
No, but
except for one.
It was Infinity War and Endgame?
Those aren't Spider-Man movies.
No, but he is in them, and I looked up like the order to watch the Spider-Man movies in. Those were on the list. So I ended up watching them for Spider-Man. But there was much more lore to the movies that I didn't understand because I hadn't watched other Marvel movies and didn't understand it.
Yeah, but that doesn't age your point because they aren't Spider-Man movies.
No, that's why I'm just saying, like, that's why for a Superman movie that is, a standalone about Superman, I guess it's just I was expecting it to not bring in this lore that I was already expected to know.
You weren't.
Well, kind of did. I don't know anything about Green Lantern or Mr. Terrific. I mean, even though I don't, aside from Crypto, my favorite human character is Mr. Terrific in that movie.
I don't know anything about the character other than TV show he was in.
No, like
it's different if because you have to keep in mind that they're side characters. It's different if
I know there's
into a
side
Mr.
characters.
Terrific movie and they don't do an origin story or explain why he is the way he is. Then that's the problem.
Yeah, but
these are side. You don't need to know Hawkgirl's origin because she's a side character.
I know that, but it's like going into this movie, these other characters are introduced, and I know they're side characters, but it's also like I'm left feeling because I don't know the lore.
Right? You don't know anything about crypto either.
No, I don't.
Exactly.
I still love them anyways, but I don't know anything about crypto. I just kind of just had this feeling of like I was supposed to know who they were, but I didn't. It's just I guess the feeling that I got from it. But like I said, that's just like a personal issue I had with it, but like overall, cuz like I just felt like in order to watch this movie, you would have had to go watch a bunch of others to understand that lore.
But that's not the case. All the characters in this movie do not appear anywhere else. This is the first movie. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
You're telling me Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, and Hawkgirl have never been in any DC movie ever
Their
before this
characters
point?
have, but these specific versions of them, no.
That's not what I'm talking about. Just their characters, their lore for their characters.
Okay, but the lore, Superman's lore in this movie isn't the same as every other movie. His parents being evil is unique here. That is not something that was done in previous movies. That's what I'm trying to get. You don't need to understand the lore of these characters previously because that's not who they are in the movie. They have the name and yes, the costume, but who they are could just be different. They just haven't explained it yet because it's not their movie.
Yeah, I think as well. I think you said DC does that a lot. Like they'll make different, shows and movies of the same characters, but they'll slightly change the lore of the characters.
Well, there's always different versions of them, like especially like in comics, like multiple different book writers can have different iterations of Batman and different storylines. There are some things that stay constant,
But yeah, like I said, I think that's just my personal issue with it anyways, but that's because most movies aren't like that as well. Like they're not part of a universe and anything that you need to know is generally explained within it because you don't need to know the wider universe because this movie is what explains it, I guess, but that's not the case with DC or Marvel.
right?
So, going into it, if you do not know that lore, you might be feeling, even if they are side characters and their lore might not necessarily be the same, these are still characters that come in. And if you haven't like seen any shows or anything on them before, you might still go into it feeling like you are supposed to know who it is. I guess.
I mean, sure. I don't know. I just didn't get that feeling.
But you also went into it knowing who they were, I bet.
I'm aware of their characters, but I didn't know anything about them.
Yeah, like I've heard of Green Lantern for sure. Maybe Hawkgirl, I don't know, but I'm not sure I'd ever heard of Mr. Terrific before this movie. But like I said, regardless, I think he was probably my favorite character in this movie anyway. Because I did like, even if I knew nothing about him prior to this movie, how they presented him in this movie just I just how do I explain it? He's just such an interesting character because he's so like not emotional. He's so logical. And it's like when anyone else acts emotionally, it's like he gives it an eye roll or something because he doesn't care. Like when Lois is in like the back of his like flying saucer thing and she starts talking like rambling about Clark slash Superman. Well, he knows he's Superman. Either way, he just makes it clear he doesn't care. There's a specific scene that I made a note of because even when we watched in theaters, I really did like this scene. I I think it's just the contrast because there's this upbeat, happy song playing. I wouldn't have known this when we were in theaters because they don't have the captions, but we do have the captions on here because I need them. I need to be able to see them to hear them, I guess. but that song 5 years time is playing, and then he puts this shield bubble around Lois, and he starts beating everyone up, and it's just the contrast between this upbeat song and him just beating everyone up, just all badass like. It's just, I love it. It's so good. It's
Mhm.
probably my favorite scene, and it's probably what part of what really made me like him as a character in this movie, and what made me realize he is my favorite character in this movie. What exactly made you take off that point?
Couple of small things, but then there's one larger thing. I think that I don't know what it is about it, and I don't know what I would change about it, but specifically from the point that Superman turns himself in to when he gets rescued, I don't know what it is about that entire time, but it feels like there's a pacing issue. Everything is going really well up until that point, and then it just feels like it gets a bit sluggish, and then after that, it just continues.
I guess that's not really a thing I personally noticed in the watch through, but when I was looking after at like what other people thought about it, because I've been over this, I have to understand if there's anything that I missed that other people have an issue with. I did hear that people had an issue with pacing, but I didn't factor that into my own review because whatever issue they had with pacing, it wasn't really explained in what I read. So I didn't personally really feel there was an issue with it. I guess it is an issue. I just didn't personally pick up on it, I guess. And especially because you can't really describe to me why right now, I also couldn't really tell you why.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's no scene that happens in it that's bad. Like, pretty much every single scene in the movie is really good. It's just there's too many of them in this one area, right? Like, it's like if I'm thinking about it, like, what do you even cut out of that? You have to show him getting captured and where he's being taken, right? And then him and Lex have a conversation, right? They have to explain how he's captured. So Metamorpho's there making the kryptonite, and then everything happens with O'Malley when he gets shot, and all that happens, and then everything that has to do with rescuing him. Like I don't know what you cut out of that, but it's just there's a lot, and I don't know the runtime of it, but I don't know.
I mean, yeah, maybe if like I really thought about your explanation, I could say I'm sure it does feel like a bit of a weaker part of the movie compared to the rest, but it doesn't feel like there's anything significant for me personally in any way that makes me feel like it detracts from the movie as a whole, I guess, and it was enough for me to notice it
Mhm.
and just feel like something different should have been done, I guess.
Right.
And even I wouldn't know what to tell you in terms of what they could have changed.
And then there was like another thing where it kind of felt like because the movie was taking place in a universe that's
Pocket Universe?
no, because the
Oh,
movie's taking place in a universe that's already set and existing. Like Superman has already been active for a few years. It kind of has to give you explanations of things that have happened, and I don't necessarily like the way they do it because it kind of feels like they're treating the audience kind of like they're stupid. So, for example, when at the very beginning of the movie, when Superman is fighting the Hammer of Baravia, Lex is obviously giving his commands and shit, and then the lady's like, it's almost
Angela?
like I forget who, but the lady's like, it's like Superman's every move, and the guy's like, he does. He's been studying him for years. Has over 2,500 different. Like I don't like that they did that. Like it's obvious that he's been studying him and that he knows all this. We don't need to be explained this. We know. We can see it happening.
Yeah, that's fair. Because one thing that I've learned in the many like storytelling courses and stuff, and everything that I've learned over the years otherwise, you shouldn't explain something with exposition if you can show it. I think there's a better way that I can word that. Show don't tell type of thing. Don't explain anything through exposition if you can show it, because to be honest, I forget the reason. I will agree that, and I think this is it's an issue with some movies and shows that they do now too, is they use a lot more exposition than just showing you, because I've been hearing it lately, people have been calling it like second screening. So they do that because they know people are going to be like using some other device. while they're watching this movie. So they need these things to be explained to them because they're not going to see it. At that point, just read a book, listen to an audiobook maybe. I'm not going to say I'm not guilty of second screening. I am. I do it quite a bit. But I will never say that a movie should accommodate for that. That's my own issue. Do not reduce the quality of something and just explain everything to me that you can show to me just because you're going to assume that I'm second screening. And even if I am, like I said, that's a personal choice I made. That is not on the people who made the movie to accommodate for. It's just better when you show things. It just, like I said, I forget the reason. It's been a while. I just know it's better. I also, this was a minor issue, but I didn't really take it away from like my overall score really. But Angela's facial expressions and like her extraness at sometimes, I just felt was a little meh because it was like
Like she was overacting.
kind of. Did you
Yeah.
find that, or was it just me?
No, I noticed it too.
I think it was. I mostly noticed it when she was in Superman's hideout. What does he call it in Antarctica?
Fortress of Solitude.
Fortress of Solitude. Was that ever mentioned in the movie?
No,
So I wouldn't have done that. When she's, I guess, fighting these robots, she like does a backflip, but using these nanoparticles, she basically reforms herself to be standing right back up. You didn't have to do that. You just turned around. It was a bit extra. So I found that extra, and just like her facial expressions. I can't remember exactly what she was doing, but she was like doing something, looking towards like the camera, not in it. Either way, I guess there was another robot or something behind her, and the way she just looked back, I was just like, oh, I don't like that facial expression. Why'd you do that? Like it's like she looked so like disgusted and annoyed, and it's like, why do you need to do that? Why do you need to make that face? Yeah, I it was just a little issue I had, but it was just an issue like with her acting and not really the overall story.
I think that's it for negative.
I did make a few points about like things that I thought I did like. I just make notes about everything that I'm thinking of when I'm watching the movie so that later on I can reference back and say what I like, what I didn't like in the moment when I had those thoughts. I already mentioned my favorite scene and like how Mr. Terrific is like my favorite character and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That was one good thing I made a note of. Another one. This was just like a random thought that I happened to write down as I was watching. But the first time that I watched the movie, when we went to theaters to watch it, when they're in the Fortress of Solitude, as you put it, um, and Angela basically like covers Crypto's face in the nanoparticles. I I am a lover of animals. Okay. I cannot watch animals die in movies, and if I get even the slightest inkling that an animal is going to die in a movie that I'm watching, I have to stop watching it. And normally, what I will do is because I have a bookmarked site on my phone, doesthedogdie.com, to make sure before I watch a movie that nothing happens to an animal in the movie, so that I know not to go into it, watch it, and like it happen and me not expect it, and then I'm just sad because it happened, or you know, get so far into watching a movie and then there's this animal and I'm like grappling with, oh no, is this animal going to die? I'm gonna have to stop watching this movie now midway through because this animal might be about to die and I can't handle it. I'm sure you don't have this problem like I do.
There's a very real possibility that could happen in Supergirl.
Oh god.
It's based on the Woman of Tomorrow comics, which is a notoriously depressing comic, and Crypto is her dog.
And he dies in those
No,
comics?
no, no. I don't know anything about the comics. I just know that one, the comic is really good, and it's usually really sad. I haven't read it or anything, but
Okay. That's not to
I
say
know we see him as a little baby though.
oh, that's not to say like I haven't watched movies before where animals have died and like I felt a bit of sadness, but like I guess the way it was done, it felt more okay because the way in which it happened, it wasn't shown as graphic or brutally or it's that kind of thing. Like it's still sad, but it didn't hit me as hard, which actually reminds me of something I saw today, but I do not want to get into it. It made me really sad because an actual animal died. It's a video that Moist Critical made. I actually cried watching it. It is blurred out, but you know, an animal is actually killed in that video, and I that's how bad I am. Now, mind you, movies, it is generally, I hope, faked, but I still find it hard to watch. It was already bad as it was, seeing something real happen to that dog and seeing like the owner so like devastated and everything to like, oh my god, why are you smiling?
What?
To like to just seeing her dog get murdered in front of her. More like sudden, graphic, brutal deaths of animals. I can't handle that. So that's why I need to consult, does the dog die? In saying that, my point is when I saw that happen, I was really, really worried that Crypto was gonna die and I was gonna be sad. But of course, we realized later he's still alive and I'm happy. And that was just a comment on the first time I watched the movie. Obviously, when it happened this time, I knew he was gonna be okay. So it didn't affect me this time.
Apparently, there was, before the movie came out, there was an early screening that was done on like an earlier version of the movie. I don't know if it was that scene specifically that got changed, but there was some scene with Crypto that got switched out because the people that were watching it reacted poorly to it. I think it was that scene in which she puts her nanobots over his head. I think that was swapped out, and the original was it was Ultraman that punched him.
Yeah, no, I'd rather the nanobots. That even though I know like Crypto is like a super dog, a meta dog. He's like pretty much invincible like Superman, I guess. I don't know. I don't know the origins of Crypto.
Well, yeah, I don't think there's anything human that could kill him.
It's still brutal to see a dog, even if the dog is completely CGI. I didn't know that until you told me. There's still something so like sad and especially if they left Ultraman punching Crypto. There's still something so brutal about that would upset a lot of people. A lot of people are upset by like violence against animals or animals dying in movies.
What's the issue?
You mean what's the issue?
Like, I get why people like would react poorly to it, but it's a villain doing villain things. You're supposed to dislike them.
Yes, I know you're supposed to dislike them, but this is the kind of thing that people don't necessarily want to see. We know the villain can be portrayed as a villain in other ways, in less brutal ways that don't involve making you sad. Like, you can be made sad. It's hard to explain, but as an animal lover, I can't just explain to you why,
I don't
but
think that's legal.
what?
But...
What?
Nothing.
You don't think that's legal? What, the fact that I'm an animal lover?
Well, yeah. You just said it again.
Oh no. Oh, I see where you're getting at now. That's not what
People
I'm
will
saying.
react poorly to that.
That's not what I'm saying. Oh my god. You're just taking this way out of context. You're expecting me to continue after saying that.
Mm-hmm. You're an animal lover. We get it.
I hate you, you know that? I don't think there's anything that I can say or reword that in a way that you're not going to take it the completely wrong way.
I get what you're saying.
I don't know, I can't explain exactly why animal suffering hits me more than well human suffering, which, is still sad to me. But I think there's something about just a cute animal that cannot speak for itself. It may or may not be able to defend itself if it can, only maybe to an extent against a human, like in the case of Crypto against Ultraman. It's so sad to see an animal that doesn't deserve that treatment. And I'm not saying like humans deserve that treatment. That's still sad too. It's just human emotions are much more complex than it is between humans and animals because animals do have very complex emotions, but we don't understand them in the same way we understand human emotions. And I guess there's just this empathy that I feel for a creature, especially like dogs, because they tend to love so unconditionally, even despite you not being able to like fully understand each other. That relationship is much more simple. And seeing an innocent animal, just that doesn't understand human behavior the way that we do, it's just different when violence happens towards this innocent animal. And it kind of goes back to like the situation I was talking before, like the video Moist Critical did. Like I said, I do not want to get into it. It's so sad. But this dog was in a situation where it didn't understand the intentions of this other human that wished harm against it. And the owner, absolutely, I felt so bad for her. Like she just lost her dog, too, so brutally. But this innocent animal meant no harm, but this person did, and it got killed for no reason. And I would still feel so bad if that were a person, too, obviously. But it's just, it feels, I guess, different when it's an animal. And I guess you're also so desensitized to watching human suffering in movies, and you absolutely know, like in movies, it is fake. People are just acting. And same with the animals too. It's just, sure, the human suffering too in movies can still make you sad. I'm trying my best to explain it the best I can to someone who might not necessarily understand it. Because it seems that you don't necessarily understand it.
I understand it, fine.
It doesn't seem like it's on the same empathetic level that I do. And I'm sure like some people may disagree with that. And that's fine. You can have your preferences. But there are a lot of people out there that I think feel the same way about it. It's just, I don't know if there's much more I can say other than what I have said. I guess it kind of goes in with the last point I did. When Lex killed Mally, last night when we watched it, and like the first time that we saw it in theaters, I had to try so hard not to cry because like it was so sad. This movie is good at making you feel emotional, for sure, because they establish Mally near the beginning as this like very kind character. You don't know anything about him, but you learn like he gave Superman like free falafel and he helps Superman. Superman of all people, this ordinary human just comes to his aid when he's in this fight. Like he comes back into this fight with Ultraman and he's just in a crater in the ground. And it's just established that this Mally guy is so like selfless and kind. And it's just so sad and emotional when you see him get killed. I'm nearly crying right now. And maybe it's just me because where I'm like more susceptible to feeling certain emotions, especially like sadness over a character being like hurt or killed in any sort of like movie or show. I don't know. You probably didn't have near the amount of sadness I felt at that scene.
But there are other points in the movie that I almost cried to.
Mally being killed isn't that sad to you?
I don't know. I don't find it sad. I don't know, scenes that are like supposed to make you feel sadness. I don't really feel sadness for.
So then, what scenes almost made you cry then, if not that?
It's just the scene at the end with Clark and his dad, and they're sat on the bench.
See, I don't know why that one. I definitely did feel emotion at that scene, but not like to the level that I felt like I had to stop myself from crying or like try not to cry, you know?
Probably the hardest that I've ever cried at a character's death was in Smallville when I was just watching it back in January. When Pa Kent dies, it is so like why it happens is kind of controversial, and I don't know if I completely like how they did it. But his actual death was like it was kind of insane. It was So he just dies from a heart attack, but it's not like this thing where you're going through the episodes, or like they were pointing at it like throughout the show that he has like heart problems, and every now and then. And going into the show, I already knew that he was going to die. But when it happens, there's like no foreshadowing for what's going to happen. It's just so I can kind of paint you the scene. So he's actually just like having a fight with someone on like the Kent farm in their barn, and then that's when Clark and his mom they drive up, and then so after that fight, Kent walks out of the barn and like walks towards them, and that was it. Like he just has the heart attack then and dies.
Like instantly.
Yes, there was no foreshadowing. There was nothing. He just collapsed, and it was so jarring that I was like that the episode ended a bit after that, and I was like, I don't really like how they did that. I don't feel anything. But then the next episode happened, and it was the story of Clark trying to recover because his mom was like donating some things, and or maybe putting in storage. I have no idea, but like his watch got stolen, a Parkins watch, so Clark was trying to get it back, and it was a story of him trying to do that. And then at the very end of the episode, Clark comes home, and Ma Kent is watching a TV of when Pa Kent and Clark were like playing on the tractor, and then there was just they like walk up together, and it was they hug, and it was like, no, I'm gonna cry. It was like the most heartbreaking thing that I've ever watched.
Now we're in the same fucking boat.
So like, and I'm not lying. Like after that episode, I cried for about an hour straight, and I took a break from the show for about 2 weeks. And this was something that was common. I looked up how people also responded to it. Everybody took a break after it. like it was just so abrupt when he died. And like looking back at it now, it is kind of just a very realistic look at it. Like in real life, there would be no lead up to it. There would be no foreshadowing. Like you would just die.
Yeah. And I think, see, I haven't seen it, so I can't say how I personally would have responded to that scene. Maybe I'd feel nothing at all until the point where you also did, and apparently everyone else did. But in that moment, like, seeing him collapse and die in front of you, not knowing that's about to happen, I feel like in that moment, I would feel the empathy of, like, oh God, like, imagine being them, witnessing that, and not knowing that was going to happen, and it's now all of a sudden he's just gone and you weren't expecting it. So I don't know, maybe I would have.
It was just so jarring.
Back on the Malik point, I'm going to try not to cry. Like, I know he's a very minor character, but I think it's just how he's set up as just this very, like, he's just this very, like, kind, selfless character. Like, he's helped Superman. And to see this innocent, kind character just brutally murdered when he didn't need to be, he didn't do anything. And in front of Superman. And he's here, like, don't tell them anything. Like, I have no friends, I have no family. And that added on as well was so sad. Like, he was giving up himself for Superman, too. That hit as well, even though he's not, like, a major character. It's just the little bit we got of him still made his death emotional to me. My point in saying that is that when this movie does like really sad moments like that, I feel like it's kind of effective because even though Mally wasn't like a major character and he showed up twice, you still like he still didn't feel like a disposable character. You know, you see in some movies and shows, you see a lot of background characters die, you don't even know their names. And it doesn't matter to you because they're not significant. And even though Mally, in a way, is sort of the same way, you know enough about him, even though he's only been on screen twice when he's established at the beginning and when he dies. You know enough about him to still feel something when he dies. And I guess I kind of like how the movie set that up, so that the purpose of it was to make the audience feel sad about his death. And clearly Superman doesn't know him that well either. but you can tell he's like crushed when Mally's killed. Now, he would probably do the same thing with everyone anyway, because he wants to be able to save people, save everyone. But it feels like this somewhat relationship with Mally is at least somewhat more established because he does know who Mally is. He knows his name. He has given him free falafels. He's helped him before when he really didn't need to. That's just what makes his death so emotional for me. Even if I understand why like other people, especially you, might not have felt so emotional at that scene. That's just personally why I felt emotional about it. I also made another point that in this movie, I love Clark's. His parents are just like so cute. Because I love just like how kind and caring they are, and like how much you can tell like they love Clark. And the way near the beginning, when his mom is just like leaning over the table in her phone, just like speaking to him in her accent, like Pa said this, whatever it was she said, I can't remember now. It's just, they're so cute. And like they just seem like really good parents, you know?
Yeah.
Like they really care about Clark.
As someone that really likes comic book stuff, it's been pretty common that a lot of the time when it comes to comic book movies, at least as of recently, everything kind of has to be explained to be set in a realistic space. Right? There's always some sort of explanation for whatever the hell is going on. Because I don't know, I guess they just don't want you to believe that these things can just exist. So, for example, Lex Luthor, he makes a pocket universe. They don't like explain that away like he has a team around him that did it, and he's backed by all these government officials, which he is, but that's not how he did it. He did it purely because he's just that fucking smart. And that's not realistic, but that's fine. And I like that they lean into that. It's that kind of thing where they're just not afraid to embrace the comic book feel of it, the unrealistic things, right? Because like in any other movie, if that were the case, it would always have to be explained away by something. But no, he is just that smart. He can just do that.
Yeah, part of me kind of gathered that anyways. I didn't question that part much because in this universe it felt possible, especially because of, how Lex Luthor is established as a very smart person.
It just feels normal as well in the universe. Like you have everyone fighting the kaiju, right? The big ass monster in the middle of the city, right? And while that's going on, it's kind of like it's just a normal day. Everybody's just like gathered around, and Lois is like at the Daily Planet just complaining or like watching on the news, like as if it's just something that happens every other day.
It probably does.
Exactly. So it's just really cool to see that that's just something that happens. Kind of like Invincible, where it's like just like every 5 seconds, there's like some fucking crazy ass person with powers going nuts, and it's just like it happens every single day.
Yeah, in that sort of universe, it would be normal. But like on that point, even though like it did make sense in the universe, there was still a part of me that questioned like, what is a pocket universe? How did they manage to do this? Like I wasn't expecting them to explain it, but it was just like my own curiosity.
Well, I think that's the point. It's just we're just not that smart. Like that's just setting the bar so high for life.
Maybe, but to be fair, at the same time, I don't imagine that's possible in reality. So, of course, we're
That's
not.
the point of the comic book feel. It's just it doesn't have to exist. You don't need to watch this movie needing it to be realistic. It's fine to just believe in this.
No, yeah, like I get that because that was another thing that I learned in like the storytelling courses I've done. The point of things like in these universes where like people have these powers. Obviously, it's not realistic, but you have to keep things realistic enough within this universe that you've created that it's going to suspend disbelief, if I'm wording that correctly. It's believable enough in this universe that you're not going to be taken out of the immersion. I don't know if that's the best way I can explain it.
No, I get it. Like that, it would be a problem if it was any other character.
Yeah.
But because Lex Luthor is supposed to be one of the smartest characters in the DC universe,
Yeah, like it makes
that's
sense.
fine.
It was just like a personal question of like, oh, what is a pocket universe? How did that happen? Like, but it didn't take me out of the immersion
The
of
Pocket
it.
Universe was in the Flash. with the development, because his like little like DeVoe was the thinker. He had like the space room. Remember, he had like the silver portals that he used. Well, most of the time he used his chair, but
In the Flash?
yeah, remember that?
No, I don't think I do.
This place, they just teleported in and out of it.
Oh, I remember now.
There you go.
Yes.
That was a pocket universe, or pocket dimension, as they called it.
Okay.
It was just like a fold-in space-time. Which again, DeVoe was just smart enough to do that.
You know, obviously, me looking into this universe, like, personally, I wouldn't be able to be that casual because it's like you could be crushed by this thing right now if it came close to you, but you're just acting like nothing's happening. Like, I'd be kind of scared that, like I said, I'd be able to get crushed or something. But they're acting like it's an everyday thing, which when you think about it, like you said, it makes sense because it probably does happen every other day.
But
They're used to it.
They exist in a universe in which Superman cares very much about them.
Yeah.
Like
and
he
they're
fucking saves a squirrel and shit. Like he obviously cares and won't let anyone die.
Yeah, it is established. Like he's even going to save the smallest of creatures, like with the squirrel. They know that should something happen, he's somehow going to know and he's going to save you. But like I would still be, but this is just me speaking in this reality. Like I'd be concerned, what if there's a point in which he can't? And it is established later on that he can't save everybody. Now that was because Pa Kent has a heart attack. There are times, even in situations like this, where he probably won't be able to save everybody. I wouldn't want to be the type of person to rely on him to save me and just keep myself put in danger and be like, well, Superman will come. I'll just rely on him instead of trying to help myself get out of harm's way as well. But if he comes, I'm going to take help, obviously, but the one thing you can depend on, the one thing you can control is yourself, but you can't control whether Superman is going to be there to save you. So I guess that's just me. In this universe, like I said, it does make sense. Like I guess a personal thing I kind of thought about, but it does make sense for them.
A lot of weird in this movie. Like
True.
Cities being ripped apart, anti-proton rivers, whatever the fuck that is, and black holes, fucking flying dogs, and you know.
Well, I feel like black holes are more of a well-known thing than anti-proton rivers. I mean, black holes are an actual thing anyway. I can't imagine an anti-proton river is.
Might be, I have no idea.
Maybe. I mean, this is just me and my like nerdy space knowledge from me going into depth about like space facts because space fascinates me. Obviously, if you know pretty much anything about a black hole, is that it was obviously not done realistically, scientifically accurate. I'm not gonna knock the movie for that, but like it was just something I noticed when the black hole was there because like, you know, if you're that close to a black hole, time is going to dilate a lot. Realistically, the time of the people, well, on Earth is going to go by a lot faster.
Well, they weren't that close to it.
They were close enough that they were affected by its gravity.
But they could get out of it.
Which is also not realistic, but...
No, but they weren't that close to it, that's what I'm saying. Like they were still affected by its gravity. But
they were at a point where they were nearly in that black hole.
I don't think so.
And Superman just, like, used his breath to blow them out of it, which I definitely don't think is realistic, but...
What I'm saying is they weren't that close. Like, they weren't past the point where they couldn't escape it.
They were very close. A black hole's gravity is insanely strong. Yes, so strong.
It's very minimal. Like, it's strong, but it's not like the sun. Like, the sun has much farther reach than a black hole. Like, but if a black hole were to replace the sun, I don't think it would affect Earth. I mean, it would affect Earth because the sun's no longer there, but it wouldn't, like, pull Earth in.
Realistically, if you were to be as close as they were to that black hole, you are not escaping it. And...
Well, you're not Superman.
Yes. This is just a personal observance because of what I happen to know about these things. Others who don't know what certain things about a black hole. And there's people out there who know more than me. These are just things I happen to know because I get curious and I like space. It's fascinating. If you were that close to a black hole as they were, I think thousands of years would have passed in the short time they were in the gravity of that black hole, realistic speaking. And the thing I said about them...
Maybe it reverses if you get out of it.
I don't think that's how that works.
You don't know.
I realistically, no. That's not how time dilation works. And I think you know that, obviously.
Well, maybe in this universe it doesn't work like that. Or maybe because they were in a pocket universe, it was just different. I don't know.
I think going into this,
I think the fact that we have flying dogs means that we don't need to discuss the scientific validity.
yes, that's what I'm saying. They are doing this like whole thing just how do I put it? They're not really relying on the fact that you aren't personally going to know anything about how a black hole works. Maybe some people are like that. But I guess just because of, how unrealistic this universe is anyways, it's not that weird to think that this could be the case. But like I said, I didn't really factor that into my rating anyways, because this isn't a scene where I personally looked at it. Like, obviously, when it happened, I just went, well, it's not really realistic, but neither is this movie. So, you can suspend your disbelief, kind of. So that's why it didn't really affect me. It's just a personal thing that I'm bringing up now because I happened to notice it. And I mean, I think.
It's just very insignificant to the movie.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Like, it's different if that's the case with Interstellar. But this movie isn't Interstellar.
No, it's not. I was just saying that because there were complaints about Interstellar also being scientifically inaccurate. And I think that's part of where it lost some of its, like critical rating. But to be fair, that is also in a universe that is based on science, not metahumans from alien planets. It was just something I happened to notice. That is a personal thing because I happen to have this knowledge. So when I see this happening, I'm going to notice it. But I didn't have a problem with it because this happened assuming that you're not going to know how a black hole really works or that the laws of it can be defied because this universe does not completely rely on science. Moving on, before I talk about that more.
Yeah, this issue with the Flash.
What?
Last episode, season 1, first episode, season 2. And the black hole forms and he is fully running inside of it.
To be fair, this may have also been before I learned these little fun facts. Right. I don't think I knew as much about time dilation then as I know now. And about, like, the gravity and stuff. Like, I was still interested in, like, space facts and stuff, and I knew some things, but I hadn't gone in depth at that time. Second last point I made was I like that at the end he replaces the footage of his bio parents from Krypton. He replaces that footage. It used to soothe him, it is established. By the end of the movie, he replaces that footage with, like, multiple different videos of his parents to soothe him, like his adoptive parents, to soothe him instead. And I really like that because they raised him. I mean, personally, I feel like it should have been that from the beginning because, they raised him and cared for him. His bio parents didn't do that. I guess it makes sense because by the end of the movie, he gets the full message from his parents that was corrupted. Because he thought his parents, biological parents, were good people and they were sending him to Earth for a good reason, to do good and not to rule over them. It does make sense there too. I just think that's like a really sweet thing that they did at the end. Also, my last point, a bit insignificant. I just mentioned I also love the punk rocker song by Iggy Pop at the end because it's so catchy, and I heard a lot of people were saying, like, apparently James Gunn really finds some, like, good music. I wouldn't know. I haven't seen, like, a lot of his movies. I've heard, like, I've seen comments online of people saying this is kind of like a thing that he does. Like, he finds, like, songs that I guess not that many people have heard of, but are, like, just hidden gems, really. And it introduces people to these songs through the movie. And those was one of the... Punk Rocker was one of those songs. It definitely was for me. I, like, loved that song for a little while after we saw that movie. It was so good. Yeah. I still like it, though. I still like it when it comes on in my playlist. And I guess it makes sense because, the whole punk rock thing is talked about once in the movie. I can't remember exactly what they said, but it was a conversation between him and Lois, where I was like, well, maybe that's the real punk rock or something. I felt like it was appropriate. I am done. There is nothing else you would like to add?
I'm fucking tired.
Go to bed.